privilege to that of the Chancellor in thanking the Musqueam people for hosting us here on their traditional territory. I want to thank you, Madam Chancellor. I want to thank you, Mr. President, Dean Frank, ladies and gentlemen, some very old friends that I have over here with me who can't believe I'm about to be a doctor. I am a doctor. I want to thank all of you. I want to especially thank the university for the honor that it has bestowed upon me. But let me as well, and most importantly, congratulate you, graduates or faculty of education who have worked so hard to get here. This is your day, and I'm very grateful that you've allowed me to share it with you. You're shaking your head. Is that positive? The truth is, when I received the invitation to speak to a UBC convocation, I asked if it could be you. I did this because I cannot think of a vocation that is more important than the one that lies before those who will be Canada's teachers of tomorrow. Quite simply, knowledge for knowledge's sake is what determines humanity's progress. And there are few things more essential to our growth and mutual understanding than the transmission of that knowledge from one generation to the next. Today, you join the alumni of one of the finest faculties of education in the country, an alumni that accounts for nearly half of all the elementary school teachers and the vast majority of the secondary school teachers in the province. You are also the graduates of a university that is playing a major role nationally by, among other of the many things that it does nationally, by filling a huge gap in Canada's education infrastructure. That is to say, the need for teachers with an understanding of Aboriginal Canada, First Nations, the Métis Nation, and the Inuit. And if you'll allow me, I'd like to take a bit of time now to dwell on the issues that this speaks to. I would do so not because I expect that you will spend your careers teaching students only of Indigenous origin, but because no matter where you teach in Canada, the probability is you will have 1, 2, or more Aboriginal students in your class, for they are the youngest and the fastest growing segment of our population. My hope is that you will be able to take the time to understand in each case the individual voyage those students will have taken to get there and the pressures that they are under. In the past 2 decades at our universities and our colleges, the quality and access to education has improved dramatically for Aboriginal students. Unfortunately, however, the same thing cannot be said for the pillars on which all of this higher education is built, that is to say, our elementary and our secondary schools on and off reserve. Proof of the pudding can be seen in the staggering high school dropout rates of Aboriginal Canadians as compared to their non-Aboriginal counterparts. And the reasons for this are not hard to find. One of the most glaring of these is the unacceptable shortfall in funding of on-reserve schools by the federal government compared to the funding by the provinces for schools within their jurisdiction. Elementary and secondary school education is a universal right. It is a universal free good in Canada. And to discriminate among Canadians, among Canadian children, by who is fairly funded or not, is a violation of every principle, every value we as Canadians proclaim to the world. And the question that I think all of us here in this great hall have to answer is, why isn't there more of an outcry? Why aren't people rising up against what is clearly an act of overt discrimination? And the answer is, when Aboriginal children suffer because of an emergency, because of lack of water, because of lack of housing, it is the stuff of television news, and governments are forced to act even if inadequate. But cameras, no. Cameras cannot capture school children suffering from want of learning. Hence their calls for help are really heard. And 8-year-olds who have not learned to read by grade 3 end up playing catch-up for the rest of their lives. I can't help but do this. I'm going to interrupt the young child who was crying, the mother took the young child out. One of the first political speeches I ever made in my life. I was making a huge speech. I was at the peak point in the whole thing. And the child started to cry. The mother was worried that the child would be bothering me. And so so she picked the child up and she took it out. And I said, Madam, please don't leave. Your child isn't bothering me. And the mother looked out and said, yelled out, yes, but you weren't bothering me. I'd ask you to ask yourself, how can it be that we teach the Canadian Charter of Rights in our schools, but we don't practice its edicts in our education system? As Canadians, ours is the privilege of living in a country that is fair. It's a society we have labored for justice, and in large measure we've succeeded. But when we look at Aboriginal Canada, you and I, most of us, we are blighted by our blind spots, by attempted assimilation, by unjustifiable poverty within our borders and in the margins of our common life. We are a kind nation. Canadians are a good people. It's not out of malice that we allow these conditions to continue. We are too numb, too familiar perhaps to be shocked by the unfairness in our midst. And so for so long, we have chosen complacency. We've let language, generation after generation of untapped potential. We have watched history repeat itself before our eyes. Virtually every Aboriginal leader I have ever spoken to has identified education as the key to the social and economic problems facing their people, and I suspect that every single one of you in this hall would agree with me. And this is why I believe, because of the career choice that you have made, that you hold the future in your hands, the future of our country in your hands. You have the opportunity to develop and mold the young minds of tomorrow. But all I would say is that must be all of the young minds, without exception. As a country, we have a future to live. Promises inscribed in the parchment of treaties and in the words of the Constitution. But more important than anything else, also etched in the hearts of so many young Aboriginal Canadians who ask only one thing, and that is for the opportunity to succeed. Now, it's not going to be easy, the task that you've taken on. There are obstacles that you will have to overcome. For instance, we don't do a very good job of teaching history in our schools, and Aboriginal history barely at all. And this allows a mindset to continue on, one that goes back to our earliest beginnings as a settler. A mindset that today is wired into so many of us. When, for instance, we continue to emphasize the myth of the so-called European discovery of a land where vibrant societies have existed since time immemorial. A myth which totally ignores the terrible consequences of colonization and its repeated attempts at assimilation. The tragedy is, until we recognize the truth, and we won't do that until we teach it, until you teach it, we will continue to repeat the mistakes of the past. Fortunately, however, there's a call for change in Canada, which is starting to be heard. 3 years ago, the Association of Canadian Deans of Education, with Dean Frank at the forefront, signed an accord that promises to emphasize the traditional values of Indigenous people in teacher training and development. Furthermore, the Faculty of Education, represented here on the stage at the university, has declared 2012-13 as the year of Indigenous education, and with innovative courses like Aboriginal education in Canada, programs like the Native Indian Teacher Education Program, which is in its 38th year, not to mention the First Nations House of Learning, which I visited today, a visit, by the way, that I would recommend to each and every one of you in this hall. Clearly, the University of British Columbia is among the leaders of those in this country who would make change happen. But what the university is doing responds to an issue of fundamental morality. It's beyond question. It's also the right thing to do in terms of our economic future. The generations that you will be teaching will face a global competition the likes of which we've never seen, arising from the growing populations outside of our borders. And I don't have to tell the people of British Columbia this is Canada's gateway to Asia. But what has to be underlined for all of us is that to meet this challenge as a country, we must rely on more than simply the storehouse of natural resources that lies beneath the ground. We must foster the talents of every single person who walks upon it. That is why your decision to devote your skills, your insights, your experience to developing the generations to come, regardless of who they are or where they're from, puts all Canadians in your debt. And herein lies the importance of the profession that you have chosen. For it is you who will spearhead the effort of this country to meet that challenge of tomorrow. It is you who will be nurturing young minds, helping them grow, and giving them the tools necessary to succeed. And this is why, as a country, we must encourage our best and our brightest to become teachers. For Canada depends on you. We depend greatly on you for all of our success. And on that note, I'll close these remarks by saying to the graduates how proud we in this great congregation all are of you. The choice that you have made speaks so well. It speaks of you, but it also speaks so well of your parents, your relatives, and your friends who are here today and have supported you through the process. What I raised here today has been embedded in everything you've been taught at UBC. And now the opportunity to put it all to work is yours. Nothing could be more exciting. You are graduates of a great university, let there be no doubt about that, and you can all make a huge difference. And I know you will. There isn't one person in this room who doesn't envy you for what you're about to do, including me. So good luck.